Good morning, everybody. This is the Monday, July 24th meeting of the Jefferson County Supervisors. I'm still admitting people into the meeting yet, but we'll go ahead and we'll start off with the first item on the agenda is acknowledge the minutes from the previous meetings. We had two meetings last week, one on July 18th and one on July 19th.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to meet with Dwayne Hines, our county engineer, as we always do every week. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, supervisors. I hope everybody had a little toasty weekend. The crack cleaning and filling project is complete.
They got through that in a hurry.
So there's one traffic control headache that is done. So people will be able to get to and from work as long as they're not using 32nd Street, which is under construction for patching. And we will have that closed Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, so we can replace some culverts under the road in conjunction with that project.
Okay, and that approximate location on 32nd Street, because 32nd is a very long street. You're just talking about from where
From the city limits to
down
Libertyville
to
Road.
Libertyville Road. Okay.
We should have 2 weeks left of the contract rock project. We're up on Spruce now, going from the county line south, and then we'll have 146 to do. Yeah, 2 weeks we should be wrapped up with that.
Okay.
Our bridge projects are now complete except for final seating. Actually, they're finishing the guardrail on the 257 bridge today. They'll have temporary seed and then final seed once the seeding window opens up. And if anybody calls and asks, we have no control over what the railroad does. If they are creating dust, I can call them and ask them not to, and their answer will be, we were here first, fly a kite.
Pretty much.
So that's a complaint?
We've had a complaint for, they're doing some crossing work up on 110th by people. We have no, they are a federally regulated industry. We have no leverage with them other than trying to ask them to be good neighbors. So, and that's, we also applied some dust control to nutmeg this weekend because we found a crack in our calcium chloride tank and had to find a close place to get rid of it other than in our lot. So we put a couple thousand gallons of dust control on nutmeg, so it was close. We got everything else dammed up and contained. So we will be shopping for a new calcium chloride tank.
Okay.
Which I think somewhere in the $10,000 range.
All righty.
I think that's all I got, folks.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on to the next agenda.
Oh.
Are you replacing the bridge on 225th with culverts? Over by Woodbrush?
Very possible. There may even be a couple of tank cars sitting in the ditch down there.
That's why I
Yeah.
noticed it. So okay.
Yeah, we're doing, I want to say 6 tank cars projects this summer.
We got 1,
And then
2,
we're also going to
3,
replace the bridge at
4.
Fall.
We have 4 of them that are listed here.
They look huge compared to the little bridge.
2 of them are double.
Yeah, okay.
So it makes, or one of them's a double, so it makes up the 6.
About how long does the road get closed to that then?
It's going to shoot a week.
Okay.
It should be 3 days, but things happen.
Weather dependent.
Okay, we'll move on to consider resolution to apply for Safe Streets grant. We have a resolution in front of us that says, resolution for participation in SS4A grant application. Whereas, part of the new federal transportation bill, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, there is over $1 billion of road safety funds available to form the Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A grants. To be an eligible applicant for the new safety funding, a county must have an eligible action plan in place. And whereas the Iowa County Engineers Association, ICEA, plans to apply for the SS4A grant to develop and supply all 99 counties in Iowa with an eligible action plan at no cost to the counties. ICEA encourages all 99 counties to participate in this grant application. And whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors will commit to achieve significant declines in roadway fatalities and serious injuries in Jefferson County. And whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors recognizes the action plan and will assist the county engineers department in achieving the goal of a dramatic decrease in roadway fatalities and serious injuries and zero roadway fatalities and serious injuries by the years 2030 and 2050 respectively. And whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors, after consulting with the Jefferson County engineer, desires to participate in a joint SS4A grant to develop and receive an eligible action plan for Jefferson County. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County that this county does hereby request to be included in the statewide SS4A grant to develop action plans for all 99 counties in Iowa. So, Dwayne, a little bit about this. Very
well. The board of the County Engineers Association, going through the fine print, and the board that was formed to wade through the IIJA paperwork, discovered that to be eligible for a lot of the safety money, you have to have a updated safety plan. We have a safety plan that the county had done in 2017 or 18, and it doesn't check all the boxes. And most of the counties in the state are in that same arena. Most of us have a safety plan. It's not sufficient. Going through and creating a new safety plan, basically statewide for each county, reduces the cost, and it makes us eligible down the road for safety money, federal grants for adding on to our projects for safety features.
And I called you and asked you about this, and you explained it to me. All the counties have to do this in order to apply to get them federal money.
Yeah.
So
And this is they're applying for a federal grant that's going to allow us to apply for more federal grants. But without this, it shuts the door on a lot of features that we won't be able to add to projects.
I think it's just a typo, but there's Jefferson 25 on here. County, is that just a
yeah, that's
typo?
a typo. Have to come out of that. Because I don't believe that means 25 serious injury accidents.
Right. No, I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Okay.
Second that motion.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish to approve the resolution with the change of removing 25 after the word Jefferson between the word county. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
I'll give this back to Abby. All right, we'll move on then to discuss location of new shelter structure in the Waterworks Park area. John Morrissey and Melanie Carlson.
Yes, sir, Chair.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a little bit background. I had a chance to talk to Dee a little bit about this a few days ago, and I think I've mentioned it there. We have a nice situation with our Fairfield Park and Recs Foundation. A good friend of ours passed away back around Thanksgiving 2 Novembers ago, Ed Felder.
Oh, yeah.
And Ed has left close to $600,000 for the benefit of improvement of city parks, and his example in his will and some of the things that support the will are that he'd like to see shelters replaced in parks. And it's a generous enough bequest that we've had the foundation work with the city engineer and the city park and rec board to take a look at where shelters would do us the most good. When we're talking about a shelter, we gave you an idea what a floor plan would be as far as the look, as far as the footprint, but also the look as far as an architectural schematic. And it's nice enough to have a number of sheltered tables, also public restrooms, and some storage.
Where would the restrooms go?
So on the site plan, the restrooms would be on the south side, even though it's not on the south, farther away from the
East,
entrance.
southeast.
Yeah, southeast
There
side
you
of
go.
the building. Yeah, and I apologize, there's an extra line on that site plan that goes through the A in water.
So I know the reason you're here is because the county owns some property and the city owns some,
Right.
just as in many areas. Can you show us where Bonneville Cabin is almost?
Probably.
It is here.
Okay, so it's not on that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, there's an open area right here. And then it's, well, actually, I should say it's probably about right here. This tree line, there's more of an open area closer to the road. So this tree line extends down, and where that,
Okay, so that's
Ends.
west of the cabin
north.
Yeah, north
and west.
north and probably a little east
Yeah.
of the cabin.
Yeah.
See, the cabin would be down in this area right here. So,
For the benefit of the public, if we back up just a little bit, this has been sort of a shared city-county area for a century. And the place we call the beach now,
yeah,
and that Waterworks Pond and the Waterworks plant are on city parts of the tract. Across the pond is the Navy, I'll call it Wilderness Preserve, but we have shared responsibilities out there. The county actually has a large conservation easement on it. Both the County Conservation Board and the City Park and Rec and the Foundation for the Park and Rec have an interest in the natty area as far as the maintenance of the CRP and things like
Right.
that. So we've got some good working relationships out there already. Plus, the part of the park where this is located, you have the Bonneville Cabin, which National Register of Places has it long time recognized for its historic value, but it used to not belong to the city or the county. It was part of something called the Old Settlers Association. And they were friends with the Chautauqua Association, and they used to have events out in that area, and the old settlers were active. The Chautauqua Association had orators out in the park and so forth. And those things, they happened a long time ago, but they were important enough that they had large membership at one time. Unfortunately, a lot of the membership on their boards and so forth became 80, 90 years old. Eventually, their membership faded. I and Jack Whitaker and Sandy Gillespie Whitaker helped dissolve the last of the old settlers. And at that time, they transferred the title of the area where the cabin sits to the Jefferson County Historical Society. That group sort of met a similar fate, and they transferred the title to the Jefferson County Historic Preservation Commission. And the Historic Preservation Commission, I believe, is correctly who owns it now, except that's not just who owns it. Jefferson County is on the title on the auditor's plat map. So what we have to do to meet the requirements of the will to get the bequest is we need to at least have an area that we can call city parks area. And at the same time, this is intended for the benefit of everybody that's going to use the park, which it's got a wonderful history of both city and county partnership and use out there. So all kinds of good things happen out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the shelter that's out there now is a couple of, in fairness to them, they try hard, but they are just plain old biffies is what I would call them. Not much to benefit the public other than the necessity.
Yeah.
Same way at Chautauqua Park, they had an A-frame restroom up there for the last 50 years. That's been raised, but the same type of game plan as far as the shelters. Both of these projects, what would you cost estimate them?
We're looking at each of them $250,000. With this one, we have additional costs because we'll be putting in a grinder pump lift station for the sanitary sewer, and then pump that along the road or the entrance to B Street for sewer. You know, it'd be a low pressure system like what Lindby has. So, you know, if there was ever a need for sanitary improvements at like the Girl Scout cabin, I'm sure that, you know, that force main could be tied into and, you know, as a shared line, because really the use is going to be low, but we still have to do something for it. So the layout would have 3 bathrooms, 2 handicap and 1 standard. We do have, and I believe the plan would be for them to be open 3 seasons and then shut down during the winter. There will be a kitchenette with this, thinking that people can use that for graduation parties or reunions or something that, you know, might need lots of outlets, and a sink would be beneficial for that. So the place that we're looking at putting it is where the sand volleyball court is. Calvin would plan on putting a new sand volleyball court on the other side of the road to replace this. We had originally thought of going a little bit farther south with the shelter. There's a kind of a clearing there, but the slope of the ground made it that by the time we brought in fill, we were going to be losing probably 3 or 4 of the larger trees. With this option, looks like there would just be 1 tree, and it's a smaller one that we would be losing, and still protecting the large, you know, 24-inch, 36-inch diameter trees. I'd like to, depending on the funds, like to at least put some gravel parking along the road for that. Again, thinking, you know, your birthday parties, people can pull in or back in and unload their stuff. There's a large tree right there along the road. And because we're not going to be needing to do a lot of grading with this site, that tree should be fine the way it is. We would just put parking on either side of it. I mean, the drawing kind of looks like the gravel would be taking it over, but we would really just go up to it on each side. the force main that I've got laid out, like I said, it will be low pressure pump system. Probably put a little bit of a tank in there, thinking like the cross country meets that we would have. You're going to have a high demand for a very short period of time, and then so there'd be a little bit of a storage with it. But that force main, trying to minimize the amount of bends in it, but yet we'll get it in a path that doesn't disturb any trees. Another great benefit of putting in a force main rather than trying another route is we can kind of snake through things to minimize the impact. And then, oh, go ahead.
So are the restrooms in this building or separate?
They're in the building. Yep. So right now we're looking at roughly a 60 by 30 building with, I guess I don't have that dimension, but I think it's like 14 feet, 14 by 30 foot space that would make up the 3 bathrooms, the kitchenette, and then of course some storage for park and rec. That would be where your water heater and any of, like the monitoring system for the pump station would be there. I'd like to put a little bit of an overhang over the bathrooms, again, thinking of like your cross country meet where people might want to hang out or they may have to hang out while they're waiting in line to use the bathrooms. So.
And then Leon, you're here from Historical Preservation. Do you have any questions?
And it is farther north than it was when the last time you and I talked about it.
Oh, okay.
So it won't obstruct the view of the cabin?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, when we had met there, the group that was able to come, we thought would actually help foot traffic to the Bonneville cabin. Because we kind of talked about possibly eventually getting a sidewalk that would make its way down there to make it more of a known thing to the community.
Yeah.
So, okay.
One thing Melanie said, as far as depending on the monies, maybe more of a gravel available and so forth. I think that's going to come true. I had a meeting with our executor in the last 2 weeks. You probably know her name, Revling, and she's pretty good at numbers. Anyway, we've had pretty good interest flow from the funds that haven't been distributed yet. So there may be an additional $30,000 to $40,000 on top of what we're talking about for this bequest that we would split with the other similar bequests to the County Fair Board and Greater Jefferson County Foundation administering. So if we have an extra $20,000, I'm assuming that would help you get some gravel.
Well, everything's gone up since I did the cost estimates, a year ago.
Anyway, that's
but
on top of what you got.
Okay, and the timeline that you're looking at?
So my goal is to bid them in November, December this year. And depending on the metal building company, we're seeing that a lot of them are a year out. So I would like to say that we're going to be 23 construction, but a lot of it's going to depend on the company that gets the bid. We kind of just tossed around that including a completion date in the bid package. And that way, if, maybe someone's a little higher, but they'd be able to get it done done sooner, that we would be able to do that because we are looking at like a metal building. Like on this particular one, I'd like to see a little bit more open concept, but this particular company was the only one that was getting me rendering at the time. But so we will be doing a public bid on it though, and we'll bid this one with and what we plan on doing at Chautauqua. Plan to bid them together.
Right.
So, and just so you know, what we're planning on Chautauqua is a bathroom park shop combination. Again, a very similar concept where the bathrooms will be on one end and the park, and then would have like a park office as well as a locker room for the Parks Department, and then an open space for the parks. And something else is that we plan on doing all single user stalls. And, we'll end up with about the same number of actual facilities as if we went to, 2. We just thought that was better for the future of the parks, is to go to single user on everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I
Alright.
guess that's helpful. The only thing I'd ask is just work with Historical Preservation Committee, because they're our link.
So what we'll anticipate doing is we'll report back to council about this. We'll also report to the Park and Rec Foundation. We'll set up some kind of meeting with the commission. We understand this is going to be a little bit complicated because we'll have a pass-through of several groups, and then the money, actually the Park and Rec Foundation will be sprinkling money as you spend it. But we'll try to keep everybody informed as far as how it's going, because we want to give everybody credit on this, helping out, make it work. So
That sounds like it's good for the community.
yeah, I think it'll be a very good thing. And it's needed. So very necessary.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on then to discuss and consider recommendations from the safety committee. Pat McVan, you're on with us.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. So the safety committee's been meeting pretty regularly. You saw the memo that I sent you. There's been a few kind of recommendations that the safety committee would like to make as it relates, but we're a committee of the board. The board is supervisors are the folks that have the right and the ability to act on these recommendations. So the first recommendation, as you see in there, is to request and require a safety inventory for each department within the county, to include the number and location of first aid kits and AEDs. We started talking about this at the last meeting. Susie was there, and talking about if we know where, and not so much, this isn't necessarily so much for the public, it's for the safety of our employees, right? If you went to the different offices and said, do you have a first aid kit? Do you know where it is? Could you access it? And then beyond that is who manages that first aid kit to ensure that it is that it has up-to-date equipment or items included in there. One of the things we were talking about is the while not necessarily required in all first aid kits, but if you have like a one of the pop-up face masks for CPR purposes, that those will, dry out or get brittle and they have to be replaced over time, that there's a number of other, if you have, for example, Tylenol, Advil, that those have expiration dates. So who's just managing those, make sure that if stuff is used, if it's replaced. Those are the types of questions that we had. And, each department's a little bit different. Some are really on top of that. Others are, don't use it as often, but we thought that it would be a good idea to maybe put that inventory together. And so I guess asking for the board's approval and support to initiate that project. The second is to require every department head to take incident review training. And this training teaches how to properly conduct an incident review and proper documentation and follow-up. We don't have a lot of incidents in Jefferson County. That's, knock on wood, that's good. But when we do, it would certainly be, nice that the folks that are charged with documentation and responding are properly trained on that. And then the last is to require every department head and supervisory employee to take supervisor safety responsibility training. One of the things we talked about, and notice it's not just department heads or it's not just elected official, but it's anybody with supervisory authority. One of the things that's talked about in there is that there are responsibilities as a supervisor for the other folks in your office beyond just what's in the code. Safety is also included in that. And there are some, liability issues related to both the county and apparently to individuals when we deal with safety and responsibilities. IMWCA offers both of the incident review training and the supervisor safety responsibility training. They can do those in person. We have a member of that team that is a regular participant in our meetings. And so those are two additional trainings that we think would be not necessarily for everyone, but for a number of folks within the county. And then last thing I'll let you know is I did share these recommendations with Jack, and his response was that the letter to the supervisors looks good. The training in the different areas is essential. IMWCA's training is pretty good. So that's what the safety committee is working on and would like to be able to work on, and would like, I guess, to be kind of shared and made an expectation, I guess, with the other departments within the county. But that is a supervisor decision and not ours. So I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to continue to meet and make these recommendations, and I'll let you ask questions or discuss what you need to as it relates to those recommendations.
So process-wise, we passed this list of recommendations, and then the safety committee will proceed working on implementation, and then we'll look at this when we meet with department heads as far as what's been accomplished.
I think what we would do is we would work with the auditor's office, because they're typically the folks that push out information to all the department heads, and develop, share the information about the trainings. We'll work on getting them scheduled. Stacy was talking about, she's the person with IMWCA, that she could come and offer, the same training maybe once in the morning, once in the afternoon on given days, to give people opportunities to participate, depending on what their schedule is. And we would work on that process to get that set up. And we would definitely start working on the inventory of the first aid and emergency equipment within the county. Get a list of not only where it's at, make sure everybody knows where it's at, but who is maintaining those things. That would be something the safety committee would be working on.
I think this is important that we do this, and I support it. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the recommendations from the safety committee.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish to go ahead and move forward with supporting the safety committee on the items that were outlined in Pat's memorandum statement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries, and we'll go ahead and move forward with this and allow the safety committee to do the same.
All right, I appreciate that. That'll give us something definitely to talk about and work on at our next meeting. So thank you very much.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Pat.
Thanks, Pat. All right, we'll go on to make committee reports.
I've been tediously working on this opioid settlement that happened when I was chair. And so it's been a challenge trying to access the portal to actually apply to get the funds. A couple of things they're working on is the funding's all laid out. The first payment would be around $15,300. It has to be used for opioid abatement. So we would need to, as we work through the process, determine what and how and where those funds go. Over a period of probably about 16 years, there'll be some other payments. There is according to the webinar, and this is just an informational piece, one of the states, because this is a national class action lawsuit, is working on a process where maybe they could apply to get all the money at once rather than, so they could actually do something major with it. So we'll see where that goes. I'm sure we'll learn more about this at ISAC conference, which is coming up in August. So that's going on. And then we had an ambulance board meeting. One of the things there was a letter of intent to open contract negotiations with Care Ambulance. That contract's up October 23. So we will see where that goes. And we did Spotlight last week.
You did Spotlight last week. Okay. Susie? you have
Yeah, I
reports?
had a SEMCO meeting last Wednesday. And the major discussion was on the positive side, how well the new reconstruction has been going. And I know there have been folks here who have went up to visit that. On the downside, there was a lot of talk about the cost of diesel fuel for that. It's gone up tremendously. And we are now considering a fuel surcharge to help that individual. Other than that, everything's going great up there. It's way cleaner than it used to be.
Okay. We had Board of Health Committee met on Thursday evening. The meeting covered some reporting from Dan Miller for the environmental health about the problems that have been going on in the city of Pleasant Plain with people not being actually hooked to the sanitary sewer system up there. And Dan did a really good job of explaining it to the board of what needs to be done and how it's being taken care of to this point. They have sent out letters and everything to the offending property owners up there and working towards a solution on how to get people out of dwellings that aren't hooked to the sanitary sewer system in town there. So, and then we also went over some old business, different items that were discussed on there, the consideration for a new office manager, discuss and consider the fiscal year 23 budget, how it's working and what's going to take place with it. Discuss and consider salary adjustments that the Board of Health wants to institute for their people out there. And again, that would be something that would need to be approved on their end to come to the supervisors with it. So the one portion of the meeting that I felt a little uncomfortable with was that the Board of Health, on the encouragement of the director of the Board of Health right now, Chris Estel, she would like to see an independent counsel hired by the Board of Health in order to investigate the process that the supervisors are using when it comes to just employee pay. And that Chris's idea is that either the independent counsel would provide a guideline, a book, so to speak, of the duties of the supervisors when it comes to what the Board of Health tells them to do. And then she also didn't allude to it, but it was brought up by one of the other Board of Health members is this something that's going to turn into a lawsuit between the Board of Health and the supervisors? And of course, Chris was kind of in agreement with that, but not coming directly out and stating it. Again, trying to reiterate, all we want to do is get a list of rules that the supervisors have to follow when it comes to direction from the Board of Health. So, and again, I didn't comment on any of that because that would involve me when it comes to what's going to happen with it, but that's what was discussed during that portion of the meeting. And then there was discussion during public comment portion of the meeting. Most of it coming from Tom Drish about whether the Board of Health had any input or say into the purchase of the new building that the county has just made, and whether or not the Board of Health was going to allow the Public Health Department to be moved to a new location, if that's what's deemed to be done by the supervisors. We haven't made any decisions or any other directions as far as what we're using the building for, but we are going to have some work sessions coming up on how to use this space most effective when it comes to whatever department may be considered to be moved up over to the new building and how the new building would work from that point forward. And then also comments were made on the money that was taken and appropriated for payment to house the juveniles. Tom brought that up with the board. He also brought up to the board his thoughts on the emergency management levy and how that hurt public health and other organizations as well. So that was, I had lost contact with him by that point in time. My cell phone service got cut off. But I was on the meeting over cell phone and heard 90% of everything that went on. So that's my report about the Board of Health meeting that we just had last Thursday.
Thank you.
All right. We have any public comments? Anybody in the room here have any public comments? Yes, Mara Dwyer.
Hi. Know me, I'm Mark Dwyer. I'm co-chair of the Jefferson County, Southeast Iowa Sierra Club. And as you know, the city and Marsh University and Sierra Club have put together a consortium to hire a sustainability coordinator. And I wanted to bring her to introduce her to you. Just for.
Why don't you come on up and sit here so that we can kind of see you.
All right.
And she's actually housed in the county building.
She's housed in the county building, that's right. She's in Pathfinders. And we just wanted to let you meet each other, and I'll let Rachel introduce herself. She was the winner after we interviewed about over 40 people. We went through 40 or so resumes, took us 4 or 5 months. We interviewed for the first interview about 14 people. We had maybe 5 or 6 that had second interviews, and Rachel came to the top of the heap. And lucky for us, she already lived here. So we didn't have to go through that. So do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, just a little about me. I grew up in Iowa, and I went to the University of Iowa. And then after that, I joined the Peace Corps, lived in the jungle for 2 years. That's where I really kind of got my love for sustainability and localization and like local culture. They were very, to live in a subsistence culture in the jungle was really eye-opening. It really helped me understand the nature of food and seasons and sustainability, right? You want to pick all the berries or pick all the plants as you want to seed. And so they basically, you call subsistence, or you kind of get this idea of hunting and gathering, but the jungle there is basically it's a garden that they maintain it. I mean, of course, it's got a lot of native species in it as well, but they basically work within the landscape without our kind of more structured agriculture we have here. But what it really kind of taught me was how important it is to work together and share. And so they're very beautiful, sharing community. So I brought that back. And of course, I wanted to live in the mountains after growing up in flatlands of the heartland. And so I lived in New Mexico for about 25 years. Where I did a lot of sustainability education. I worked in the solar industry, but I've always been active in my community and trying to figure out how we can create more local connections and cooperation.
So what brought you to Fairfield?
Well, I kind of hit a dead end over there. I had a big house and an Airbnb, and my village said, we don't want Airbnbs here. And they kind of pushed us out, and I thought, okay, time to go. And so I found Fairfield because I just typed in one word and it popped up. And so they were having visitors weekend over at the university. So I came and I met Ed Malloy and he told me about how great Fairfield is and how there's so much entrepreneur and so many possibilities. And I thought, I felt great here, felt welcomed. I felt like I was coming back home. So it's great to be back in Iowa and to be having this position that is, I mean, I think the cooperation of people is the thing that makes, communities solid and successful. And I look forward to communicating with you on a regular basis or and figure out what you guys kind of initiatives you're working on that we can also, work on with other groups of people. So it's really, hopefully, I'll meet everybody and then I'll figure how we can all, this is also to pair everybody up.
Okay.
More.
Yep, we're hoping that, if we stumble across grants or opportunities that might be of value to you, we'll bring them to you. Hopefully you'll do the same. And there are just so many people in our community working on different silos of things that we really want to pull them together and have them add their synergies together so that we can all make good progress. So we just wanted communication
Very good.
and collaboration. And
Welcome.
so this is Rachel Hill.
And then I just didn't know, is there one person that would be open to communicating with me if we had some kind of, or,
Probably me because I'm on Pathfinders. That's
Okay.
one of my committees.
all right, then you'll be my contact.
There you go.
Great.
All right.
That's all we had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment from someone here in the room?
I'm Michaela James, and my husband Will and I just purchased this old barn. And I was told that we were gonna be on the agenda today for our liquor license.
We have not received anything about that.
I
Yeah.
called the auditor's office and they told me it would be today on the agenda.
Abby was gone last week.
Abby was
It
gone
was like
last
2
week.
weeks ago. I talked to somebody. I left a message.
You talked to me and
You-
I said to contact the
So
auditor's
then I
office.
called them that same day and they said that they saw it or they had received it and that they had put us on the agenda for today, for the 24th at 8:30.
Could we get it? Do you have it?
I do.
Can we,
Not
can we,
September 1st.
Oh,
we've
so
got
we've
time.
got a little bit of time. So
Well, we have to get it like submitted like soon. Our first wedding is like September 10th, but like the valid date would be September 1st.
well, we can put this on the
August
agenda for the
1st.
next meeting, which would be August 1st. And that should give you plenty of time in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, because that has to be sent back to them and then they
Right,
need
and
a
then
week or
the
two to
liquor
finalize
license
it.
needs to be renewed on an annual basis. And of course, we like to try to get those before they're last minute. We've had one that was last minute here where we actually had to have a special meeting in order to approve it. And we don't like doing those kind of things, but it sounds like you're out in front of it far enough since your first event would be in September. That
That's what we wanted to
we
get
can
it
get
done.
it this accomplished by then. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, we've got several people online with us. We've got Annie Pillay, Deb Booth, Marianne Nordyke, Pat McVan, Ray Chambers, Tammy Merrill, and Tom Drish. And do we have any comments from any of those?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Just wanted to reiterate what Darren was trying to say about the public health meeting. I didn't bring anything up about I don't know what the whole juvenile housing thing was about. I've never mentioned that at all. My question was about that if the Board of Health, if they had any input, whether they had to move to the new building. I know it hasn't been fully settled with the supervisors, but who had the ultimate say on what happened if they'd have to move? Darren, you refused to say anything at the board meeting and want to bring it up now. That's fine. I don't understand why you're on the Board of Public Health when you make no votes, you abstain from anything. But wanted to kind of throw a little hissy fit now and want to throw me under the bus with it. I think it's pretty ridiculous, and I think that's pretty much common with you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
That was time.
Okay. Hearing no more, then we'll move to allow claims and approve reports.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Drish and a second from Sandquist to allow claims and approve reports. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Having no more business in front of us, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Drish, a second from Sandquist to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much.